Good morning, boys and girls. Here we are again. Mrs. Deitz still has her mask on so she can say stay well, and I hope you're wearing your mask. These masks are wonderful things to keep germs from coming into our bodies. But while I'm here in my own home, I'm going to take off my mask while I'm reading you the story. Now, today, we're going to have a little different kind of a story. This is not one Mrs. Deitz got from the library. This is one that Mrs. Deitz found, and it is a teacher's story. So you take pieces of paper that have the writing on them, and you run them off on a copy machine, and then you cut them and put a staple, and you have a book. So Mrs. Deitz is going to read this story to you today. It's a real cute little story that Mrs. Deitz just loves, and I believe that at the end of this week, you are going to take a special field trip. And remember last week we talked about harvest, and we talked about the pumpkins, you can harvest pumpkins, but we also talked about apples. So the story Mrs. Deitz is going to read today is called The Star in the Apple. Now, each of you in the preschool will have this little story in your hand. And right now, if your teachers have given them to you, I want you to take it and hold it like this and look at the picture while Mrs. Deitz reads the words. And she will try to remember and say, I'm going to turn the page now, so that you can turn the page and see the next picture. For those of you that don't have the book, you may have to look very closely because these aren't colored pictures. They're all just black and white, and they're a little bit fuzzy. When you run them off on the copy machine, sometimes they become just a little bit fuzzy. But this is a cute little story that I wanted to share with you. So if you have your book, get it ready. The name of the story is The Star in the Apple. And let's see what happens and how this little boy found a star in an apple. And remember, Mrs. Deitz is going to read, and then she'll turn it around. And then you will know it's time to turn your page. Once upon a time, a little boy named Peter told his mother he had nothing to do. How would you like to find a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside? Asked his mother. Peter said he would like that very much. You see, Peter and his mother are outside, and their house is behind them, and Peter's talking to his mother. Now you turn the page with me and look at the picture on the next page. Peter and his mother walked down the road and saw Peter's friend Margaret jumping rope on the sidewalk. Do you know where I can find a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside? Said Peter. No, said Margaret, but maybe Farmer Green will know. See, Margaret's jumping rope, and Peter comes and sees Margaret and asks if she knows where there's a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside. Turn the page with me, and we will do the next page. Peter and his mother found Farmer Green tending his garden. Do you know where I can find a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside? Asked Peter. No, said Farmer Green, but maybe my grandmother will know. She has lived a long time and is very wise. See, Peter and his mother are talking to Farmer Green. And Farmer Green doesn't know where to find a little red house either. But maybe his mother, his grandmother, will know. Turn the page with me and we will read what happens next. Mrs. Green was rocking back and forth in her rocking chair on the farmhouse porch. Do you know where I can find a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside? Asked Peter. Go into the orchard, said Mrs. Green, and wait for the wind. It will bring you what you are looking for. See, she's in a rocking chair on her front porch, Mrs. Green, and she does tell Peter and his mother to go to the orchard and wait till it gets windy, and then they will find what they're looking for. Turn the page again with me. Well, let's see, there we go. Peter and his mother walked into the apple orchard. Hello, Mr. Wind, called Peter. Do you know where I can find a little red house with no windows, no doors, a chimney on top, and a star inside? Asked Peter. But there was no answer. Peter and his mother sat down. Did they sit down beside a tree? Look closely at your tree. What kind of a tree is that? What's growing on it? Can you tell me? Very good. There's apples growing on that tree. Maybe this afternoon you could color the apples. If you like red apples, you could color them red. If you like green, you could color them green, or you could color them yellow, because lots of times we see 3 different colors of apples. But let's turn the page and see what happens next. Suddenly, Mr. Wind arrived. Woo! Woo! The apple tree shook and something red fell into Peter's lap. Peter looked at it closely. Look, he cried, it's a little red house with no windows, no doors, and a chimney on top. His mother laughed and asked, but does it have a star inside? See, when the wind blew, did the apples fall off the tree? And Peter gets a red apple on his lap. But it's red. It doesn't have any windows, any doors, and it has a chimney on top. Let's turn the page and see if there is a star inside. Peter's mother cut the little house in half horizontally. Inside was a little 5-pointed star made of apple seeds. Thank you, Mr. Wind, shouted Peter. See Peter and his mother cutting the apples? Do you think they may eat those apples too? Let's turn the page and see what happens next. Peter and his mother filled their pockets with apples and started home. On the way, they stopped and gave Mrs. Green, Farmer Green, and Margaret each a little red house. A little red house with no windows, no door, a chimney on top, and a little star inside. And you have your own book to take home and let Mommy and Daddy read it to you. Now, Mrs. Deitz has that little red house with a chimney on top, no windows, no doors, Let's see if there's a star inside. Now, when it tells Mrs. Deitz to cut it horizontally, it means she's going to cut it like this. If it had said to cut it vertically, Mrs. Deitz would have cut it down like this. But the directions said to cut it horizontally. Let's see if we have a star inside. Do you see a star? There's a star on either side. So yes, inside the little red house with no windows, no doors, and a chimney on top, there is a star. Maybe when you get your apples, your teacher could take one and cut it and show you the star inside the apple. I hope you have a wonderful field trip, boys and girls. And I hope you enjoy reading the book with your family. Mrs. Deitz will see you again next week. Goodbye.